Hey everyone, I actually just made a live YouTube video. I actually made that private. My intuition told me to make that private because it was a very sacred moment for me. And as much as I've learned that I love to share, um, it was just a moment of a real awakening that I had. And I haven't had one of those moments in a while. It's been not that kind of awakening, right? So it was a very intimate moment that I shared with you guys. And for those of you that caught that moment, you caught that moment. But I wanted to just come in and just get into conversation about what does this all mean? What does it mean when you wake up? What does it really mean for yourself? What does it really mean for the world that you live in? What does it all mean? And for me, it's really about human experience. Human experience. That's it. And as I stated in the video yesterday with the shattered pieces, we don't need to. It's a part of a program, right? The shattered pieces, the having to break people's souls and minds so that they can find themselves again. And it's a part of learning. It's a part of learning. And as I said on the live earlier, I offer gratitude to all of it, all of the experience. I don't it's an experience that allows us to really grow fuller into ourselves. um, I never see any of these quote unquote um, life programs or anything like that. I don't see that. I don't see it as something that is a hindrance, or I don't see it as something as a form of slavery necessarily. Okay, because again, you can get through this. You have the ability to do so. You're strong enough to do so. Um, there's a long history that goes back as to why things are the way that they are. And I'm not really going to talk about that right now, okay, because that's something that I'm still tapping into. And it's something that I don't necessarily want to speak on prematurely. But I've definitely gotten some insight just from the inside on how and what and where all of this is coming from. Just our life here on earth. So with all of that, it's now taking this time. If you guys are actually having awakenings, and I talked about the divine feminine in the live video, and coming into the trio versions of myself, the trio versions of self, when it comes to a full completion of really fully embodying who you are, wholeheartedly, with your mind, body, and soul all intact, and coming out of that and into your life. Because if you're not operating on a trio within yourself, you're operating on binary, you're operating on that mother daughter, or if you are male, you're operating on that father son, father son, father son, and those are loops. These and this is what I was discussing in my first video on Monday, is the binary loops, the one to the other, the one to the other, the one to the other. And as I allowed myself to breathe and just come into this whole thing, that third leg, that third aspect of self is the most important. And it is actually the most sacred. And that is the loop breaker. And the only way to get to that loop breaking is to walk through your wisdom, is to walk through your journey. Nothing else can take you outside of that journey. Nothing else can take you outside of that too fast, in a sense, to where you are finding your way to the third part of self without having to do the work. It takes work to get to this space. And I know that there are other ways to try, other ways to try to get through, but it's the real the true way to, at least from my perspective, to really feel life and allow yourself to feel life is to walk the walk. And I'm definitely one of those beings that walks the walk. I admire the walk. I don't complain about the walk. I don't try to look outside of myself to find an oppressor and blame someone else for my decision making and me walking my walk. I take full accountability for my walk. I am grateful for my walk. This is what I came here for, to experience death, right? In a way of what some people would call death, because separating pieces of self is death. So when you walk through death first to get to life, after you've realized whom and what you are, this is a true beginning and a true birthing of what people would call a real experience. And that's just been this awakening for me today. And that's what I really wanted to share. I just felt like I was caught in just, I don't know, I was just caught off guard in that live video, although it was poured out from me. And listen, I I got parts of me, and yes, that purity part, you know, that and this is where the trio comes in. This is why it's important. Full integration matters, because you can't operate on one side when you have these other aspects that are also wanting to express. We embody so many different parts of ourselves. And that's why people would say, oh, you know, hey, you know, you have like all of this going on mentally and you're dealing with so many things, but it's only because of the fragments not being caught and integrated and really learning how to truly merge with all of these parts to become truly one with yourself, truly whole with yourself, truly all of it. We have like the holy aspect. That is a true holy trinity. When we talk about the Holy Trinity, we're talking first about mother or grandmother, mother and daughter. We're talking about grandfather. We're talking about father, and we're talking about son. And then when these two parts, when the trio, when the Holy Trinity of the masculine and the Holy Trinity of the feminine actually realize who they are, that is when you create a Holy Trinity of bringing the masculine and feminine together wholeheartedly. That is when it happens. It can't happen on one side. It can't happen on one side of yourself. And this whole new cycle that we're coming into, this whole new level that most of us are coming into, we need to be reminded of that work. We need to be reminded of those parts of ourselves, because neither one of us, or I should say all of us, both masculine and feminine, we've both been through similar traumas. We've just processed them different. We process them differently. You know, we have the divine masculine who has a certain archetypical father, you know, a certain archetypical father that maybe the father was too much of a seeker. So there was no emotional attachment to the son. And maybe either the son emulated or the son did the opposite and didn't want to be anything like his father, you know, or sometimes it's the other side. Okay, as I talked about with the feminine part, sometimes it's the masculine or the father that perpetuates abuse towards his son and towards mother, possibly. And then the son has to process that and figure out who he wants to become. Is he going to be anti his father, or is he going to be just like his father? And this is that development within a divine masculine pole as well. And this is where grandfather comes in. Grandfather comes in and says, hey, you don't have to judge yourself, right? Grandmother comes in to the mother and to the daughter, who both have their issues too. I'll just reiterate that we have the vixen, the one who gets through and uses her sexuality and sensuality. We have the one who closes off and says, absolutely not. You cannot enter. You cannot come into my space because of some kind of PTSD of some sort. So mother closes up, and daughter either emulates that, or she rebels, or she wants to be, you know, like the other aspect of that. And grandmother comes in and says, hey, I'm nurturing you. I'm protecting you as well. These grandfather and grandmother energies are protective, true protective energies of who we are as like beings inside of these bodies in this space called Earth. That's what that is. And without the acknowledgement of the father, I mean the grandfather and the grandmother, we're just out here in the open. And that's what I felt like out there. And it's interesting because I'm seeing everything as symbolic. I'm seeing everything as symbolic. I'm learning each lesson in real time, guys, as I am speaking to you. So as I am learning each lesson in real time, I'm out there in my backyard, and I'm the purity part of myself. That is the middle of me. My name means purity, but my name also means thunder. My name is also associated with Jupiter. Like that's like my name. That's what my name means, my birth name. So that's the trio. My like my identity symbolically is actually represented in one of my names, my birth name. So being in that being in that and realizing that just now, again, awakenings in real time, just now, I'm saying I was out there speaking to you guys live, and I was purity. I was baby part of me speaking with no covering. I acknowledged my cover. I had an automatic covering because I've spoken covering over myself before I even came on live. So I didn't know that that was going to happen. I was very spontaneous in it, but I automatically provided myself with covering. The grandmother provided me with covering regardless. So in recognizing that this is the fool's journey, you put yourself out there and it's just like, oh, and you know, then you have to realize, oh, this is sacred. This is my middle. This is sacred. I need to allow myself to like get into myself fully before sharing. And this is, and again, I'm being very transparent with this entire process because I wasn't expecting for this process to happen in this way. So this is why I'm sharing, but I'm realizing the importance of just paying attention and being mindful of your journey every step of the way. So if you are coming into an awakening, a true awakening, because we have many awakenings, but a true awakening, you come into that, then you need to make sure that you realize that it's sacred. And same on the masculine side. The same on the masculine side. If you are coming into your masculinity and you're feeling that grandfathering in of yourself, then that's what you honor, and that's what you allow. You allow those energies to really do or integrate within you before you just, you know, go out there like that. So, you know, as we hold the bodies and we realize, and I was talking about the body of mother and mother being in the womb of grandmother, right? And daughter being the eggs, but there are many eggs, you know, because what we talk about is we talk about abundance when we're dealing with all of this. And we know, and this is what the feminine principle is. Okay. The feminine principle provides the bodies. Okay. This is what I'm realizing. I've known this, but I'm realizing it. It's like I got my sight back. I'm realizing it. So in realizing all of that consciously, this is why the feminine principle is so sacred and important. It is because of the abundance that comes from the bodies provided, right? And then we have the masculine side. The masculine side is that side that provides the consciousness, the spirit within itself. That is also sacred. But what happens is when the divine feminine principle is not really placed in a space to where she is able to hold her own sanctuary over her own body, then the eggs become less and less. She becomes dried up. Okay, that's why, she becomes dried up in the eggs. She has no eggs. She goes through menopause. It's a part of that natural cycle. So that's why grandmother came in and grandmother protected me, because here I am out there, birthed, publicly with no covering, with all of these eggs, right? So it's not putting me as a person on a level of self-importance. The ego is not in this conversation. I'm speaking on behalf of the divine feminine principle and saying, recognize your value by looking at yourself and how you operate biologically, how you connect intuitively, how you really use your mind and your heart, and where that brings you in your journey. So that is something that is beautiful. And it is not to be, it is your choice on how you want to share that sacred space. And I feel like I am here in my journey realizing how sacred this principle is and how important it is for this whole thing called life to even continue. And I know it's obvious. But it's not really that obvious when you're not awake. It's not that obvious. It's just like, yeah, female, I get it. Birth, mother, I get it. All right. And it's when you go and walk through that field of wisdom, you're like, holy crap, this is profound. This is profound. And then you go more so into the other side, okay, because we can't forget about the divine masculine. We cannot forget about that side of the principle that helps restore and keep it going. That would be the sun, right? That would be the sun providing that light, bringing that light into the world. There are articles talking about the sun being locked down. The sun does not need to be locked down. Why does the sun need to be locked down? Why should everything just go and fall into pieces again? We don't need to do this. We don't need to go through this cycle again. And it's because there's a resentment that is being expressed from the divine feminine side. Divine feminine is taking full accountability and responsibility for her resentment towards the masculine side, because they've been at war for a long time. Love and war, as I said yesterday, but more so at war and kind of in love, but more so again at war, because there's all of this past stuff. And if you can look at this world as a macro body that has feelings, right? There's a consciousness inside the body as well that also has feelings, both masculine and feminine, and they interact with each other. One side of the feminine is mad. She's mad. So she's just like, no, I don't want to invite you into my new world, so you just need to get out of here. And it's not about that, because then here we go flipping the other side of the coin and going now into not a divine feminine, world, but just a feminine one that puts themselves on a pedestal, acting as if they don't need the masculine principle. And that's not what's going to make everything better. I'm not here to say, hey, let's, kumbaya, let's have this, make this world a better place. Yes, make this world a better place, but a better place for life, so that we can have opportunity to continue on, moving on in life, and really thriving in life, and not having to worry about surviving or being broken again. We don't have to be broken again. Once you've realized that you're not broken, and wherever your journey brings you to that point of remembering you don't have to be broken, okay, when you realize that, then you don't ever have to be broken again, because you feel it, not even know it, you feel it now. And once you feel it, that's just what it is. And there's a life that exists in that walk. And that is not the fool's journey. That's not the fool's journey. So there is a death before. It feels like a death before an actual birth. It's a transfer process into actual life. And that's what this is. And that's what I'm seeing. And that's what needs to be revealed, because this transfer right now is pretty serious. But, it's a thing where people are looking, they're taking it seriously because it's life to them. So if this is life, and my consciousness is here to experience it, then I am all that I have. I'm all that I have until the end. And if there is no end, I'm all that I have. So you mean to tell me that I'm not supposed to care about what's going on? Am I not supposed to speak on the conditions of the world that I live within, dwell within? I understand that the world is systematic. I get it. And at the same time, there are many of us who get the system. And there are many of us, again, we're not hating on the system. We're just like, hey, there's another part though. There's another aspect of life that most people are not living. And what happens is it's too much space with not enough life. Too much space and not enough life. That is very lonely and isolating when you realize that a lot of people that are walking around is just, they're just getting by. They're grazing on by. So again, I'm not tripping over it. It's just like, okay, those beings out there who have woken up, hello, and, fully integrate, allow yourself the space and the time, and live and create and rewrite your story. Your story. As I stated in the video that I made with the charts and everything, there's the linear matrix programming within itself it's a default program. It's a default program, and it's needed for that stage of life. And then there's a whole other perspective when you start to realize who you are. And I can't tell you who you are. That's not you have to walk the walk. But when you finally get to the point where you know who you are, then you can start operating in that new coding. That's when you operate in the new coding. The new coding, it's not really new, it's ancient coding. But you operate in that ancient coding that has been provided by the grandparents. You can operate in that only if you walk the walk through wisdom. There are cheat codes in the matrix linear system. There are cheat codes in that system. Yeah, it's a piece of cake. Sim game, right? Piece of cake. But when it comes to these ancient codes, as I was speaking on, you know, the three parts of that, we have the circle, right? We have the linear side, which is more so the perspective of the looped perspective. And we have the spiral that knows how to recognize the timing of things. And then out of that spiral, that's where the value comes in. And you can't really touch that account. You can't touch that account when the spirals are coming out and creating purposeful loops, loops for creation, loops for actual experiencing and living for real living. So those who are in or feel stuck in the looping matrix, who are trying to get a hold of the codes of the ancient ones, it doesn't operate that way. It doesn't operate that way. So you can try, you can like really try, but only for those who walk the walk. Only for those who walk the walk. And that's playing fair, isn't it? That's playing fair. It's not, nobody's judging you on how you walk your walk. You know, you can feel like you were probably the most terrible person in the world. Nobody's judging you on how you walk the walk. Just walk it. Get through it. Get all the way through it. All the way through. And start living a new life. When you're constantly going back and forth in that other realm, you know, the linear time matrix looping, it's fun for some people to like go and visit. It's fun for people to like indulge and participate in that, you know. But once you've done it enough, there's like this whole other space that has been, it's just this whole other space. So I just really want to give a shout out and offer my gratitude to the divine masculine who has been really putting forth the work in recognizing and getting to the point of truly helping to rise or restore the divine feminine. I really want to offer my gratitude to that, because it has been a divine masculine that has been conscious. The divine feminine has actually been quite unconscious, because we've been behind on purpose, because right, it's a part of the linear matrix thing. You know, it's a part of the linear matrix thing. So it's just kind of like, yeah, we're going to like leave her, keep her as a child. We're going to keep her as a child, like, you know, just childlike. Doesn't mean she's an actual child. No, we're not talking about that. She's not an actual child, but consciously, most people in the linear version of the matrix are the children. Everybody, damn near. So it's full of children playing games. And that's cool. That's what it's there for. That's what it's there for. But for the children who want to access the ancient codings without walking the walk and actually growing up like for real, you can't touch those codes. There's no ill feelings towards that. No judgment. We understand the need and the want for certain codes, but that's something that you can't teach that. You have to experience, and there's a way to guide. And those are the medicines that those who walk the walk, especially in a divine feminine, because this is a different kind of rising than the masculine. Of course it's different. We are now provided with the actual medicines of the true ancient divine feminine that will really come in and actually help restore. And it's not, I don't have a savior complex. I don't. I'm not trying to be Neo. I'm not trying to be the one. That's not what I'm trying to be. I'm not a sacrifice. The divine masculine and feminine, the true divine masculine and feminine are not sacrifices. There is no need for sacrifice. Those games are done. Those games are done. Figure out your walk on your own. You don't need a savior. You don't need to it's up to you. It's your choice. I'm just telling you, you don't need to do that. I'm talking to those specific people because I'm like into like it as we speak. And grandmother for real is speaking through me. I am housed. And it's just walk the walk. It's fun. It's a nice walk. But you know, you don't have to those are old games. They're old games. And there's new, but there's ancient. It's ancient new. It's ancient new. And that's a whole other world to discover from your perception and perspective and your feeling and your experience. And that side of the game doesn't need to shatter pieces in order for it to thrive and sustain itself. That's not that. That's not the what you would call, you know, the true life. We don't need to break spirits in order to live in that paradigm. That is the new world or old world at the same time. And there are certain beings who are indeed headed that way because they've walked the walk. It's a true graduation, like a real graduation. So that's that side. And it's not a side, it's all encompassing. There are no sides on that side. There are no sides. The linear matrix programming, that's where the sides are. So let's just come to a point to at least know, and I just wanted to put it out there in a way to where it is at least recognized that there is more. More and more of us are coming out and speaking on this. And more will probably come out into their true awakening. That you don't need anything from the outside to get you in. You don't need to swindle your way to get in. The way in is in, and it's always been that. It's always been that. Not just in here, not just like everywhere, just knowing yourself. Just knowing yourself. So again, like I said, all props to the divine masculine out there who has been really making sure that the coding has been at least prepped, you know, and those who are still finding their way, you'll find your way. We ain't going nowhere. This is true life. We ain't going nowhere. We're just living. So I think that's pretty much it. I just really wanted to come in because the ancient energy was just like, yo, you were not done. You were not done with your true integration. You were not covered. You were just birthed. And when you are birthed, in like energetically or spiritually, meaning you are inserted back into your body. It's the birthing process is not an outer thing, is what I'm realizing too. I was just birthed inside of me. So as I'm being birthed inside of me, as I'm coming into my own self, right? I'm over here going live on YouTube while it's happening. It's okay. I'm not ashamed. I'm not embarrassed. It was just an experience, something that I learned very quickly because I'm paying attention. That's all. Because I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. So this is an amazing time. With all that being said, this is an amazing time. We can finally move forward. We can finally move on. We can finally like explore and not have to live through the same repeated cycles. What a relief. So it's an amazing thing. So if it's so what the next step is if you or anyone needs help with guidance, if you need help with the guidance into your wisdom, as I said, the grandmother energy, the medicines are coming through. Whatever is shared with me, I share with you. There is no reason for me to hoard or keep any of this. And it's not just me. Like I said, I'm not putting myself in a position of being that person. It's not a person thing. It's an energetic collective community thing where we are like really connecting and really receiving the medicines. And the ancient energies only provide the medicines to those whom they trust, because these medicines are very powerful for true healing and restoration. So I just wanted to share this message with you guys. I've been on one, like just for this whole week. I will never forget this week, ever. Oh my God. So anyway, thank you guys for listening and witnessing and just being there. And, you know, I always hope that whatever I share is inspiring. And yeah, it feels good. It feels great to be in a space that is self-sustained and thriving in life. It feels amazing. So thank you again, and I will see you soon.